recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the greatest wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, JArrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Conrad Thompson, I'd like to say I'm doing fine. Go ahead and tell our listeners. A little ornery today, Conrad, to be honest.
You are, and you're not just ornery because, well, even a broken clock is right twice a day, somehow, some way. Joe Burrow managed to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a victory. They beat the hapless Arizona Cardinals 34-20. So I guess we'll lay off of Abyss for 1 week. What say you?
Conrad, our mutual friend, Mr. Bischoff, what does he often say? Context
is king.
Do you really... can we sit here and look at each other in the eye, and hypothetically, if the monster Abyss was at this table, I don't think he could look us in the eye with a straight face and say that was a good win. There's no way.
No,
the Cardinals, and with your Google machine, I bet you can pull up. They are in total offense. Defense rank, they are so far down. They're not even in, I think they're in the bottom of the barrel in just about every metric. So a win for the highest paid player in the league, I just think from a context point of view, it's almost like a tie. I don't even know if we should really consider this a win.
You know, well said. Well, I guess we should say just through week 4.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, you might actually be surprised to hear yourself, are actually 12th overall in total offense.
Oh.
You know who's dead last? The Bengals.
Oh, God.
You know, if the Bengals were a wrestler, they would be an enhancement talent.
Okay.
They'd have no entrance music. They'd have no pyro.
Yep.
And Howard Finkel would say, and his opponent, Turd Ferguson. I mean, that's what it would be. That Turd Ferguson.
As Fink got out of the ring with his head down, going between the
Turd Ferguson.
That's it. Yeah. And there's a hard camera shot of Joe Burrow backed up in a neutral corner, just kind of jogging in place,
pale and waving.
Yeah, with his nylon jacket on.
Yes. Well, listen, we've had a lot of fun with that. We should talk a little more football before we talk about tonight, because tonight is going to be a big night in AEW history. We're actually recording our show a little differently than normally. Normally, Jeff and I record on a Monday morning. We have a live studio audience. We have our crack producer, Marcus DeAngelo, here. But instead, we're recording on a Sunday evening because, Jeff, you're getting on a jet plane. Dynamite is on a Tuesday. But before we talk about that, and Title Tuesday is what our pal Tony Khan is calling it, we should say we've had quite a few suggestions for hashtag Double J Bet. You and I have decided we're going to make a fun bet for the 3rd Saturday in October, which has become a tradition for Alabama versus Tennessee. And you think your volunteers can beat my Alabama Crimson Tide? I say nay. I ask for you guys. Hey, we're not going to make a monetary bet. We're going to make a fun bet. Here's some of the suggestions we got so far. Our man Casey says, strap match. Winner gets to take the strap to the loser. I'd have to take your word for it, Jeff, but you said that don't hurt that bad, but I'd really rather not find out. So there's one.
I love that one. Oh, I'd like to tie it.
I figure you like that one.
Lay into you, pal.
Our pal Wes Gay says, if Alabama wins, Jeff uses the UA fight song for his entrance music 1 week. I like that. If we could get that Alabama theme song on TV, woo, roll tide. But if Tennessee wins, Conrad has to use Rocky Top as his theme for all of his podcasts for a week. That would suck. I'd get tired of that pretty fast.
I'd love to see old JR's face when that lit up Boomer Sooner. He's got to be happy off this weekend, but keep going with the bets.
Here's another one. Loser dyes their hair pink. That's from the Artist for the Fans. I don't really like that one, but I understand it. Here's one from Joe. If Alabama wins, Jeff has to dye his hair black and make a donation to the charity of Conrad's choice. I can't imagine you with black hair. I'm sure Marcus is photoshopping that up for everybody to see. You'd look like the damn Greg the Hammer Valentine from Rhythm and Blues version of Jeff Jarrett. And if Tennessee wins, Conrad shaves his beard and mustache. Nobody wants to see that.
Oh, it'd be nice.
Ben Ledbetter, friend of the show, says if Alabama wins, Jeff has to have a Bama flag displayed on his boat and wear a Bama hat while captaining said vessel next boating season. I wouldn't get very much enjoyment out of that, and I don't know that I could hold him to it, so I don't like that. The Hamilton says loser has to go into a very public setting and read a poem written by the winner. I like that. That's pretty good.
Ooh.
Francis Reyes says loser gets a guitar shot.
Now we're talking.
I figured that would be something you would like. Here's one from Will. Loser gets painted up in the winning team's colors, hair and facial hair colored. CPIC for reference. Stand on the busiest street corner in the loser's hometown during 5 p.m. rush hour on a Friday for 1 full hour. That'd be tough.
I'd love that.
Alex McCarthy is just a crazy person and wants us to not only be humiliated, but get doggone divorced. He says, loser's wife gets her head shaved, Dundee style. I don't know about that.
Thanks, Alex.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying to have fun here, not get attorneys involved. And then we have some fans who are not U.S. fans of our show, like our pal Justin, who says, if Alabama wins, you stop talking about football on the podcast. And if the Tennessee Volunteers win, you stop talking about football on the podcast. There you go.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I love it.
Keep those coming. We're looking for your suggestions. Hashtag Double J Bet.
There was a lot.
What should we do? There's so many more. That's enough to get us started. That's enough. We want to hear those ideas from you. We will commit next week here on this program as to what the bet will be. And by then, we'll be talking about what happened from Title Tuesday. A reminder, AEW, which is normally featuring Dynamite on a Wednesday night, this week is on a Tuesday night. So it's going to be tonight, October 10th. And of course, it's still on TBS, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Tony Khan tweeted out quite the card. He tweeted out at Rated R or at Edge Rated R. So we've got the Rated R Superstar taking on Luchasaurus. This will be Adam Copeland's first time wrestling in an AEW ring. We've also got the women's title on the line for Saraya taking on Sheeta. The international title for Phoenix versus Moxley, number 3. Then we've got the TNT number 1 contender matchup with Swerve taking on Bryan Danielson. I Am Jericho. That's right. Chris Jericho will be in action against Will Hobbs. Hangman Adam Page will be taking on Jay White. And Tony wants everyone to know it's also his birthday. So send our man some birthday love today at Tony Khan. And man, it's going to be the first time you guys have been head to head in a television piece, I think, since like April 2021, somewhere in there. So more than 2 years. Of course, we know like this past weekend, there was a premium live event that was head to head with Collision, but this feels a little bit like the old Wednesday night wars. But now it's on a Tuesday night. What can we expect to see tonight from The Last Outlaw?
Well, we'll see. God, wait, the last head-to-head. Man, time flies.
It does.
Absolutely. So, refresh me, Conrad. When AEW launched.
October of 2019 on TV.
Okay, that's but where was NXT then? On Wednesday?
Yeah, they made sure they moved it to Wednesday. So when it started heads up.
They went head. That's where was it before that? I'm just trying to think of the I guess the lineage of the head-to-head and non-head-to-head battles.
Yeah, I don't recall. I know they made sure it was on USA. Heads up with you guys. Well, you weren't there at the time, but here's what else is interesting about just everything's wrestling. This past Friday night, WWE was in St. Louis. And now tonight, AEW Title Tuesday is in Independence, Missouri. Tickets are on sale now, AEWTIX.com. I just think it's interesting that even the routing seems to be in similar places. That feels very reminiscent of the old WWF and Jim Crockett promotions and later WWF and WCW issues. Well, now it's going to play out tonight on TV. From what we understand, the other side is loading up their show, but
you think?
Gracious, you've got like a little miniature pay-per-view of sorts tonight for Title Tuesday with AEW.
It's crazy. I was just sitting there thinking, trying to recall like the timeline and everything. Yes, I was in the WWE camp, and this is for another podcast for another time. But those were very, very interesting times. Not just for the wrestling band, but for everybody. Like, what's this product going to look like? How's it going to debut? How, just everything. I'm talking about maybe the 90 days before that. So here we are, Title Tuesday.
It was on WWE Network. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I double checked. It was on the WWE Network. So it permanently moved in September of 2019 to USA. Well, I say permanently, but
yeah,
I guess that's maybe why this is a battleground tonight, but it's going to be fun. I hope everybody tunes in and supports AEW and checks out what you're doing. And,
sorry, I jumped on you. The wrestling fan wins.
Yes.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. This morning I got up and went to church, and when I got home from church, I go to the gym, and there's the weekend crowd's different, but I saw kind of two of my old school wrestling buddies. It without fail, they have to bring up an Attitude Era angle, storyline. A lot of us, one bud, Jim, says and I'm like, all right, lay it on me. He always say, hey, whatever happened to,
yeah.
And he'll be a completely obscure name. I'm like, I have no idea. I have not thought about that guy's name, and guys that were on the tail end. But anyhow, those wrestling wars captivate people's imagination and then some. So yeah, the wrestling fan wins.
But if you support The Last Outlaw, you're supporting what we're doing. We want to ask you, watch AEW tonight. It's on TBS. It's like a pay-per-view level show, and it's absolutely free. If you happen to be in the Missouri area and you want to make your way down to see the show, tickets are still on sale, AEWTIX.com. And I just want to encourage everybody who enjoys the programs, whether it's independent wrestling or it's AEW or it's WWE or anybody in between, go see a show. I know that occasionally, hey man, it's awful easy to just make your own nachos and have your own restroom and have your own beverage, and there's no lines and there's no parking, but going out and supporting the shows and buying a ticket means a lot. And if you're not able to do that, pick up some merch. I know that there's lots of debate and lots of tribalism, but the reality is the best way to vote is with your wallet. That's how promoters know, hey, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? Tweets are helpful. Greatly appreciate those, I'm sure. Using the hashtags is always a good thing. But buy a t-shirt, buy a ticket.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Thinking about, and I jumped on you twice already in this podcast, Conrad. Boy, I don't think I've let you in on this story because it is a real point of frustration, but I'll get to it. But you were saying Independence, Missouri, and St. Louis was this weekend.
Yes.
I'll just say, do you know what airport you fly in? Because some people are saying, where the hell is Independence, Missouri?
I don't know. Is that not the St. Louis one?
No, that's Kansas City.
Okay.
So it is opposite ends of the state, but it's people that live out of, I don't know, even the Midwest area. Like, oh, now where are they? I noticed several weeks ago, WWE had a show in Ontario. They had a Raw. And I heard several times on the broadcast, we're just outside of Los Angeles. And I thought to myself, I know whose mandate that is.
Yeah. Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
So what is your thought on that when you were talking about a city referencing it? Are you saying, let's talk about Independence, Missouri? Or do you say, hey, Kansas City, you guys are in Kansas City for Dynamite this week? Because it's a suburb.
I would rather say Kansas City because I think that makes it more, it gives a frame of reference for where it is.
Yeah.
But I also think, locally, I would never say that. But when on a national broadcast, I do want to make it relatable. So I know there were a lot of times when WWE would say in the shadow of New York City, and they're really in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I understand all that. I do. But I think locally there is a pride of, hey, man, we got it. And you hate to hear that they're giving credit to another quote unquote larger market who seemingly gets all the shine. But as a way to make it relatable, I do think it's helpful because me being what I would call Missouri stupid, I'm like, damn, they were just in St. Louis. And when I think of Missouri, I think of St. Louis, but you're exactly right. It's more on the Kansas City side.
Yeah. He fly into Kansas KC Airport. So beautiful new airport, or pretty new. I remember the old school airport. That was unfortunately one of my memories of the KC Airport is that's the last place Owen flew into, and there was a little tussle between Bradshaw and Steve Blackman that day, and let's just say Owen, in his prankster River way, might have poured a little gas on that fire in a very, very fun way. But the old KC Airport. But anyway, that's right. Title Tuesday, enormous card. I will say this: the last outlaw in the gang. We've had a few words with our man Eddie Kingston. I know a friend of your shows here on the network. So,
wait, are you really going to be beefing with Eddie Kingston for real?
You didn't watch Rampage Friday, then that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I know. Hey, no. You got a lot going on. Boy, do you have a lot.
I don't like that. I don't like when mommy and daddy fight. I really like Eddie Kingston. I thought I liked you, but you did try to kill my. You tried to kill my father-in-law in a parking lot. Eddie never did that.
Well, there may be an attempted murder. There was an attempted murder around my house a couple of times this last week.
You know what's funny? It's funny you say that, because now that I think about it, over the weekend, I got a text from Eddie. I won't give his area code out, but let's just say it's a New York area code.
Okay.
And it was a skunk emoji. And I didn't really know what the hell that was. And then I hear you on here sort of say, oh, it's been kind of rough. And, oh, there's been an attempted. Can you sort of put the pieces together here? I mean, I'm under the impression that maybe you've had some rodent issues in your neck of the woods.
If you only knew. Would you say most of the time for podcasts, I'm either right on time or I'm 5-ish to 10-ish late, right? Tops.
No, I would not say that, but we'll go with that for the purposes of your story.
Oh my gosh.
We got to a point with Marcus where I just said, just tell me when he's in the room. I'm going to do other things. Just tell me when he's there.
Well, today
it's not your fault. If you know Jeff Jarrett for real, he is the most structured person you've ever met. I don't have access to his calendar, but my dude is time blocked. And some of you are saying, well, I do that too. I say from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. No. Jeff's like from 9 to 9:15, I'm doing this. And then at 9:20, I got this. And at 9:27, I can't miss this one. At 9:27, it's down to the damn millisecond. And I'm never the first thing on the agenda. He's got all these other things to happen. So as we say in the South here, shit rolls downhill. So 10:30 becomes 10:35, becomes 10:40, becomes 10:45, becomes 10:50, becomes 10:55. Marcus, you think he's coming? And then when you come on, you're here with your hair's on fire. You've done 19 things. You've done more by the time most people eat lunch than they do in a whole day. I'm giving you credit here. I'm just saying, I know you've been off your game a little bit, and it's maybe not totally your fault.
You know what I've been doing the last hour or so?
What have you been doing the last hour or so? I can't wait to hear.
I've been resetting traps.
Now help me out here, Jeff. When you say traps, what does that mean?
Have you ever seen the movie Caddyshack?
Okay, I thought for a minute, back in the day, Road Dogg knew about trap houses, and this is definitely a different type, I think. So, Caddyshack, are you trying to catch? Is this like a Home Alone thing with you and Cody and Herb Sadler? What are y'all doing?
Kid you not, it has been the damnedest journey, and we're in, I don't know. You don't know anything about my varmint issue, do you? Have I said anything in the last couple of months about it? I try to keep it to, this is a family issue. This is a serious family issue. And no. Karen, her world's, I'm not kidding you. It's turned the JArrett household upside down on more than one occasion. And we're going back several months, 3 or 4 months.
Into the summer.
Oh, this is spring issue.
Okay. So what's going on?
So if you could see my fingernails right now, oh boy. So, all right. So a lot of times when me and Kieran get home late at night, not late at night, but it's already sunset and all that.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got 3 dogs. We got to let them out and do their business for everybody's bedded down. And we let them out the front door. And we've got one golden doodle. If he kicks it in high gear coming off the steps, we go, oh my God, here it goes.
Is that AJ?
That's AJ. Wow.
Yes.
Recall. Yes, AJ.
Hypothetically, is that dog named after a wrestler?
No, it's not. It's Andy Jr. We have Opie and AJ.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if one of them's James Storm and one of them's Robert Roode, I'm like, we got to talk about this. What are you doing over there? Okay. So the dog, there's a beautiful animal named AJ I'm familiar with.
Yes. And when he flies off the front porch and hangs a hard left, we just hope and pray. Well, because we've had other animals out in our neighborhood. People listen to this, thinking, where the hell does he live? But anyway, Conrad, the damn thing runs around, and then the other dog follows him. And then the little baby Ty, which is a Shih Tzu that doesn't weigh 10, 12 pounds, he follows up, goes around there. A damn skunk sprays him. Yep.
How do you deal with a skunk stink covered dog late at night? What do you do?
I get Cody and tell him to go to his room, and I run and get a bunch of towels and say, Karen, you got to bathe the dogs. No, she literally gets in our walk-in shower, all 3 dogs, and just has to spray them down and wash them and wash them and wash them. It is, you ought to see the queen. I mean, it is an unbelievable mess. So this happened. I don't know. This was in the spring. Yeah. This happened. And it's it's happened. And oh, these things.
Wait, you say it's happened. Like, how many times do you think these dogs have been sprayed?
6, 7.
Oh,
yeah.
My gosh.
This is 6 or 7 different incidences. It has happened in some of the most worst times too. Like right before we go to bed and the lights are out and all that. So then she's going to have to go through that ordeal. It happened one time when we were actually, this is back in the spring. I don't even know if the clocks had changed, but this is when we were going somewhere, and it happened when the sun was setting. So I mean, hats off to Karen. She gets right in there, takes basically just stays on.
Wait, help me understand. The skunk is in the front yard or the backyard?
Side yard, in between houses. And unfortunately, it's right by one of our air conditioning units. And I kid you not, it sprays and the dogs gets stunk up, but
probably it gets in the air conditioning unit.
Probably half of those times you immediately smell it in the house.
Oh God.
It's a Conrad. I mean, this is funny, but not funny. But so it has become an issue. So my buddy, he's like, hey man, you got to trap that thing. You got to do this. And I'm like, trap that thing. So we set the trap out. Conrad, I mean, this is, look at you laughing at me.
Well, Trap That Thing is a new shirt available now on boxofgimmicks.com. My God, what a great shirt. Trap That Thing.
We have tried bread, toast, dog food.
You cooking breakfast for it?
That's what I've accused my buddy. I'm like, all this ain't no trap. This is like a feeding trough. It's a buffet. Because 2 or 3 times at night, I'm not kidding you, the skunk comes by, we believe, and pulls the food out between the little deal. He pulls it out of the cage and doesn't go up in there. One morning, the whole trap was like 8-10 feet away from where we set it. We think a deer got it that night. And folks, I live in a suburb of, just context, we just sort of hit the St. Louis and Independence. I live in a suburb, Hendersonville, of Nashville, Tennessee. There is, Conrad sometimes joke about that is, but when you pull down my street, there's water. Probably when it comes to a point, there's water on each side of the street.
Let's
So
just say hypothetically you live on a peninsula or an island or something like that. You're surrounded by water.
yeah. But so when the animals get down here, they don't really leave. Even
they live here now. It's their house too. The skunk has been there so long he owes property taxes.
No kidding. So anyway, we need to get on with the podcast. It's going to be fun today.
Oh, but hang on, I got a question though. Like, I mean, I don't know another way to ask this. Is your dog weak as tater water? Why can't he take care of this skunk? Like,
oh, I wish old Connie would come on up here with you can't.
I got little white lady dogs. You got a damn golden doodle.
I guarantee you, any kind of dog that would come around there, that's God made these creatures pretty uniquely because they're little wiry little things that can get in little holes. I mean, you Google Wikipedia them. They can. I mean, their body, their fur is huge. Their bodies are tiny, but man, they let out a stink. So here's the Caddyshack, the whole analogy. So we have cameras, on the front door, on the back door, down by the dock, strategically placed like any house does, this day and age with Amazon, we got cameras, surveillance cameras and all that kind of stuff. Karen has made it a mission. So now, because we started with one trap. Guess how many traps I just got done setting today?
Oh, there's multiple traps now. Okay.
4.
You have 4 traps around your house.
4 traps, all baited up, all ready to go.
What's you make for them? I mean, I know we've heard about toast. Is there some ham? Is there some eggs? Is there some bacon?
So cat food, peanut butter, honey. We've tried all kinds of things. Today we kind of went with the peanut butter bread, put peanut butter on it, and I sprinkled in there some dog food just to try to give it some kind of I don't know. I'm trying to get them. Conrad, this thing is such a pain in the ass. It's unbelievable. But I got to tell you, this is what I think you'll think is funny. So the cameras that are Wi-Fi and wireless and all that Karen has had for years, placed where if you come on the property, whether it's the dock or the front door side, you can see it. It's all wired in, wireless and all that, have it on your phones. These cameras are wireless. So she's taken the cameras down. I think she ordered one more, and we have these things strategically watching the traps. That's gone on for about the last, 2 weeks. And we have observed, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
We have observed, we call him the Monster Abyss, right? That's what we call our buddy that we don't have the Monster Abyss outside, but we do have the monster skunk. It's the biggest skunk you've ever seen. It's ginormous. It's unbelievable. But we've seen rabbits, we've seen squirrels, we saw a fox, of course, deer, everything. And they use our traps as feeding troughs. So we are on the hunt, and I can assure you, we're getting the skunk. Our mind is made up.
Jeff, I got a question. I know this sounds silly, but I mean, at this point, I think you've beaten Kurt Angle, Ric Flair, Sting.
Here we go.
AJ Styles. I mean, you have some of the biggest victories. You're the NWA world champion, the WCW world champion. And our great close personal friend Tony Khan has decided to publish wrestlers' records as they walk to the ring. So we get to see your name, we get to see your social media handle, and then we get to see your record here in AEW. Are you the Brooklyn Brawler against the skunk here? Have you ever you're carrying L after L after L? Like, I mean, your biggest nemesis in your history of your career at this point might be China and this skunk. Well,
if you could see the video of the skunk crawling over the trap,
that's his cage match, and he's winning it New York style, first to hit the floor. What is going on? Here's what I know. You need a habit that you got to have better habits. And let me just say,
that skunk's a bad habit.
Well, maybe not everything about your habit is bad. Of course, I'm talking about our great close personal sponsor, Fume. I say personal because my wife is rocking a Fume and absolutely loves it. She wasn't sure what she would think about this, but I've been able to tell her, hey, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Of course, we're talking about Fume, this innovative award-nominated device, and it does just that. You see, if instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural, like a skunk in your yard. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air, but not that stinky air that Jeff's been rocking lately. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy, and it makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. And I got to tell you, my wife didn't know what to think of this. I mean, she was familiar with, the vapor, but hey, how does this work? What she noticed right away is it's made out of real wood. It's a cool shape. It's well weighted. It's perfectly balanced, and it's pretty fun to fidget with. But what about the taste? She was blown away. She thought it was way more flavorful than she expected. She liked the crisp mint. And she says it is very, very fresh. I think you'll dig it too. You see, stopping is something we all put off because it's hard. But switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has now served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use the code MyWorld to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use the code MyWorld to save an additional 10% off your order today. That's tryfum.com/MyWorld, and be sure to use our promo code MyWorld to save an additional 10% off your order today. So Jeff, let's get back to it, man. This is going to be a fun episode. We're here to talk about Bound for Glory 2008. We're going to pick up where we left off, but before we do, I do want to ask, can we plan on an update next week, not only about Title Tuesday, but I want to know what's going on with your return matches, the gauntlet of matches, if you will, with you and this skunk. I mean, have we named the skunk? Does Cody have a name for it yet? Because now, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of Cody's pets.
Should we name it?
That's a great idea. Why don't we suggest some names? We'll talk about those names next week.
I have cussed that thing. I did. Seriously, not the monster abyss. It's the monster skunk. I kid you not. It might be the biggest skunk I've ever seen. Skunks aren't really that big. They're a little wiry, not much bigger than a squirrel, but just got a lot of fur. This thing's huge.
Well, let me ask you this too, Jeff, because this is important. I know we have a lot of fun and we're a couple of Southern boys, so people make assumptions. But I don't imagine that you can or do plan on assassinating this skunk. I'm sure our grandfathers, they'd have had a side-by-side solution for something like this. Maybe a little over-under solution, but they had a plan. But I don't know that that's really your speed. So what is the plan, hypothetically, if one of these skunks work?
Well,
one of these traps work.
As you say, I've played the tape forward. I've kind of gone down this road. Prior to 1984.
Oh, you know the research.
Well, guns were allowed in the city of Hendersonville. And you might not have the best eyesight. You may say, oh, I was just out squirrel hunting. I couldn't really tell the difference. And you kind of knock him off. But you can't shoot guns in the city limits of Hendersonville anymore. All kidding aside. And you also can't shoot skunks.
Skunks are protected.
Well, yes.
Now, where do they take them? Can we have this skunk? Here's what I want to know. When you trap it,
because I'm going to trap this bastard.
Can we, and we want your suggestions for names. So send us those on social media using the hashtag trap that thing. So hashtag trap that thing and give us your nickname, because when you, first of all, don't even be a wise ass and think that Jeff or I are doing anything with this skunk for the Alabama-Tennessee bet. That's off the table.
Oh, sir.
However, you know where Chris Parks lives.
I sure do.
And I think it's only fitting, since you called it the Monster Abyss, that I nominate the name Burrow, because it sounds like he's been burrowing around your property for several months now.
Beautiful.
What if we put that rascal in a Bengals jersey and just dropped him off as a gift to the Monster Abyss?
I'm not kidding you. I love it. Burrow the skunk.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. He's last place in offense this season, too. Actually, he's leading the league. You're last place, I guess. My gosh.
Well, there's a comeback coming. Oh my gosh, Conrad, when I trap this thing, and it's not a if, it's a win. It is a mission. It is a JArrett household, not just a goal. It is truly a mission. We're getting this skunk. It's unbelievable. It is the most frustrating thing. All right, let's get on with it.
I can't wait to see it. We're going to post it next week here on YouTube, myworldonyoutube.com. Suggest those names. It's a hashtag trap that thing. So listen, man, let's talk about where we are. You know, we were most recently talking about No Surrender. It was a big show. It's a pivotal time in TNA. You know, we're looking back 15 years ago at TNA, and we're building towards the company's biggest show, sort of the TNA version of WrestleMania. It's Bound for Glory. This will be Bound for Glory number 4. And there's a bit of an upswing when we hear that Mick Foley is going to be coming to town. And Wade Keller had this to say: with Mick Foley on board and Jeff Jarrett back in the mix on air, is TNA ready for a ratings uptick? If history is any indication, the answer is no. Nobody's been able to make a difference for TNA in the ratings. Not Team 3D, not Christian Cage, not Kurt Angle, not Kevin Nash, not Booker T. All of the established name brand wrestlers have entered TNA with the hopes of making a difference in the ratings, and what followed was more of the same. An argument could be made that the ratings would be substantially lower if not for that continual influx of nationally known names. It's got to be humbling, though, for one wrestler after another to join the team and hope to make measurable differences only to have none. Mick Foley is a big name. His brand has been damaged in recent years by being portrayed by WWE as a novelty act and not a top-tier legend. But he regained some steam as co-host of SmackDown with a good run on color commentary alongside Jim Ross. His joining Impact now, though, probably means less than 1/4 of what it would have meant had he signed with TNA a couple years back when he negotiated seriously with both TNA and WWE, but chose WWE. So I want to talk about the legend and the fact that maybe they weren't making a difference in the ratings. But first, I want to ask, how close do you think you were to landing Foley the first time? Because this is your second bite at the apple.
And that was 3 or 4 years. It was such an early, you just 2004. Look where we were.
Yeah.
We
just
weren't
starting TV and all that.
We weren't on Spike TV.
Right.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. We didn't have the budget for what Mr. Bloom was looking for. And I say Mr. Bloom, Barry Bloom was Mick's agent.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't in the cards. And until I did the research, I'd really almost forgot that we'd even kind of had those talks. But you know, as you know, me and Mick go back to the late 80s when he came down as Cactus Jack Manson and worked the USWA and then went out to Dallas. So we had a relationship, or he had a relationship with me and my father for years. But you know, these were the serious talks, and I was damn glad to get him.
It is a big deal, but I feel like that's a story we've heard before, you know, where you bring in legends and it seemingly doesn't make a huge difference. People can draw comparisons from different points in history where, for whatever reason, when momentum's not on your side, you tend to think as a promoter, as a booker, as a creative person, as a business person, we're always trying to, quote unquote, get to the next level. What's going to help us level up? Who will bring some fans with them? How do we attract more eyeballs? How do we get the casual fan? How do we get someone to change the channel? All that sort of thing. And we see Wade just run through a whole list of names that, in theory, one could argue, oh, well, that will definitely bring some. But it doesn't seem to do the trick. Why? Talk to me about that from your perspective. Now, and I want to be clear, we're talking about one metric here in fairness. Wade is talking about ratings. And ratings is basically a line item on a P&L. It's not everything you live and die by. There's also ticket sales. There's licensing opportunities. There's merch. There's international. There's a lot of other things at play more than just domestic ratings, but that has to be frustrating if you really are trying to impress the network. It seems like you can't throw enough money at this, right?
Well, you know what? And this is doing the deep dive like we do, and you do with your podcast. The two things. Well, not the only two things, but two things kind of popped off the screen at me, if you will, when I really think about this time frame. And I don't know, for whatever reason, when we covered No Surrender, which was just a month to this,
Right.
Canadian pay-per-view. But, I just had, made an appearance and we kind of talked. But the two things that when I really peeled the layers of the onion back and looked at all this, is my personal life trying to in a lot of ways, I guess you could say, trying to return to some normalcy, and that being, okay, Jill had passed away in May of 2007. So now here we are, October of 2008. So obviously almost a year and a half, but it seems like the summer of 2008, there was so many moving parts as far as business, but the reality is, okay, I'm about to step back in the ring. And that was, I do remember saying, all right, not only do I really, and it's not like I went and got out of shape, I stayed in decent shape, but I'm like, okay, from a physical point of view, I'm not just going to go out there and have an enhancement match. I've got to get ready for Kurt. So that weighed on me mentally. From a business perspective, creative perspective, these are the formulation days of the Main Event Mafia. And the reason I bring that up is Main Event Mafia was obviously heavily all the established stars, WWE, WCW guys, and the frontline guys were the homegrown originals, AJ, Joe. We could go down a whole list, and just trying to legitimately, and this is the real deal behind the scenes, trying to balance all that out. That how are we going to tell this story, but also, guys like AJ and others, their contracts coming up for renewal, the just making the dollars and cents work, because we're getting into international money. We're, maybe starting to run some house shows, but running the business side of things was taxing. And I do remember during this time frame, it was, I don't want to say, not only did I not have a day off, you don't really have an hour off, because once you kind of, if I'm not thinking about in-ring wrestling, or I'm thinking about, creative, then I'm thinking about international, just so much going on. And to your point about bringing Mick on board, the way we really looked at it was obviously black ink and red ink. But at this stage, when you got, I'll say we had Sting and we began to add others. Yes, we had hopes. I'd be sitting here lying if I didn't tell you that, yeah, we had hopes that so-and-so, that Booker, that Kevin Nash, that Sting would pop a number. Okay, now we're getting Mick. But Mick in a non-wrestling role, I mean, he came in. We all had realistic expectations, including the network, because they had a relation to it. But what it did do was, when you're looking at our international sales deck and our licensing, and the licensing program is much more than, yes, video games and action figures. And we dove right into that as well, but it's a full-on license programs. When you kind of end up having a depth of a roster of 4, 5, 6 established stars, maybe more than that, and then you have your up-and-comers and homegrown and guys that now have 2 years under the belt of Spike TV, you really begin to just have more depth across the board. So that was kind of the mindset. Yes, we wanted to pop ratings, but you got to remember, and I don't, especially doing the podcast, I don't ever lose sight of this, Conrad. We were on not a top 10, not even a top 20 network. Spike was 22, 23, so a top 25 network. And on Thursday nights, and a lot of times during the week, we were, CSI pop numbers, but that was kind of bought programming. That wasn't original. We were their highest original program week in and week out. We knew the value we had for those guys, and they were heavily invested. And, you know, we're not too far removed. This is the other thing that I thought about. We're in October of 2008, primetime, you know, doing whatever it was, 1.2, 1.4 million viewers. But we went from a Saturday night, late night time slot to a Thursday night, late night time slot to a 1 hour prime time to a 2 hour prime time. So when you kind of pump the brakes and look over the last 24 months, we're doing okay ratings wise, and they're happy with us.
You're doing more than okay. And here's the thing I want to bring up. I hate that we wind up doing this. It seems like at least every other week, but Wade would write paragraphs about how you were timing your return based on the debut of Foley, because you wanted to make sure that there wasn't a perception that you weren't a draw. You wanted to avoid the pitfalls of some of these other legends coming in. And had you returned on your own and it didn't move the needle, then people would say, oh, he's not a draw. And I understand that political gamesmanship may have existed in the Monday Night Wars, and that's certainly a picture everyone painted for Hulk Hogan. But boy, there's a huge difference here. Jeff is part owner of the deal. Who is he trying to impress? Himself? That doesn't even make logical walking around sense, as we would say here in the South. I mean, when you read stuff like that, because it does paint a picture as if you're this political mastermind. And I'm not saying you're not politically savvy, but this is different. You're part owner of this shooting match. What in the world would you have to prove? By the way, I would imagine you're getting 2 paydays here, one for work behind the scenes and one in front of the camera. And if the business does more, your dividends are bigger. What are we talking about? It's a little silly, is it not?
Well, it's silly if you're on the inside looking out, but if you're a journalist, they got to have content. Here's the thing that when I reread Wade's notes, I don't even think he put in there, you know, Jeff should have come back in February. No, it's the biggest show of the year.
That's right.
So we hypothetically, and didn't always hit it out of the park, but we were trying to create, you know, our biggest creative culmination of the year, Bound for Glory. I think somebody's notes, I think maybe Meltzer said our version of WrestleMania. The reason we placed it in October is because WCW's biggest buy rate of the year was Halloween Havoc in the month of October. So it's kind of the yin and yang. Well, why did WCW pick Halloween Havoc? Folks, this is so far removed, but back in those days in the 90s, you had In Demand 1 and In Demand 2. And In Demand 2, Channel 2, just, you know, they had the movies. It just wasn't what it was, and you can really get into that. But as far as their promotional push and their bandwidth, these local cable companies across America can only promote and only have so much commercial time that they can promote, called cost channel. And I'm talking about on all of their cable stations. You're not going to get it in the month of March and April. No way. That's where Mania is going to get all the press, and I call it free marketing. But In Demand was probably the one that said, hey, we're going to do these flyways. We're going to do this kind of cross channel. We're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can you give us a big event in October? And I'm sure Bischoff said, yep, that's what we're going to do. And we'll creatively write it that way. Wade, I don't think Wade ever even, and look, I'm not bashing on Wade. I just, and he's got to feel, you know, got to get his word count. But that line in there that I strategically did my comeback around Mick Foley was kind
silly. Let's also talk about your return. You come out, of course, after the pay-per-view, the first show after No Surrender, the first Impact, and Don West is going to put you over big and talk about how special it must be for you to see how far TNA has grown. Of course, we're not acknowledging your behind-the-scenes role. It's as if you're back for the first time. And Mike Tenay puts over that, you know, you've really helped carry this promotion since day one. And then you grab the mic and discuss your history of TNA, and then you call out Sting. And you talk about how your dad gave him his first break, and that Sting was full of crap, saying that AJ and Samoa Joe are ungrateful. And at this point, you guys clearly know the idea, I imagine, is going to be the main event Mafia. And then here comes Kurt Angle out. And you talk about how Kurt was the guy who was handpicked to fill your role when you stepped away, and it was the worst decision you made in your life. Kurt's going to talk about how he has carried the company. It wasn't Joe and AJ, and nobody even ever said so much as thank you to him for saving the company. And this builds to Mick Foley appearing on the big screen in front of a TNA backdrop. And he says, I think what Jeff is trying to say is it's real, it's damn real, bang, bang, and the show goes off the air. And it does a 1.1 rating, which Wade had predicted would be where you guys would land. He says it seems like this program peaks around a 1.1. That was his forecast. He nailed it. It was 1.1. What do you remember this last main event? Yourself, Sting, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley. We've loaded it up. What do you remember of the segment? And were you disappointed that it's a 1-1?
So television ratings, and through the years, you just get educated on the mindset. And for some folks out there, they may, as that news bit or however recall I just gave, well, why did Vince pick first week of April for WrestleMania? How did that ever come about? Look, I don't pretend to be in his brain, but I have a pretty good feeling that once you get to April, the television season peaks. It's where all the finales are. It's where just before spring breaks in the most part of the country, where people start getting out, all the things that go with it. So from January to April is where you got people inside, and it's the winter and the cadence of all that. So television season is most eyeballs, and that's where the advertiser rates are the highest. And I know you know all this, Conrad, but I'm just trying to kind of give the context here that was always, I believe, whether a WCW issue or a TNA issue, in that we're starting to build to our biggest show of the year really in September. That's not a real good time. It's just, technically it's still part summer, and it's the all the premieres hadn't kicked off. And I know.
Well, yeah, let's explain. Now you're in football season. Kids are back in school. I mean, there's some of the willy-nilly, frivolous, extra expendable income that's gone. It's gobbled up with back to school clothes and buying kids football pads. And now we got to travel around and get to soccer practice, and all of that stuff changes from a family dynamic. And largely wrestling has always been sort of family entertainment. But at the same time too, now you're competing with football, and we can see just in the modern day how ratings have been affected when they're heads up with a Monday night football or a big Saturday night game or a big Friday night game, whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to add some context to why September sucks.
Yeah, September's tough. The two hardest month from a promotional mindset, because wrestling, as we all love and know, is 52 weeks a year. But May is when schools are closing down and going into summer, and September is when you recrank it. It's the biggest upheaval of outside of that Christmas week before Christmas. The two hardest months to promote in, historically speaking, are May and September. And so that's the toughness of cranking your biggest event of the year, which ours was Bound for Glory in October, but really cranking up promotion mid to end of September. So with that being said, a 1-1 was, I think, pretty much hitting our average. So if we, it's also, look, the creative churn, and it was where we were at as a brand, no doubt about it.
Let's do a few quick hits too. Meltzer would say, or Wade would say, that the second hour started with a commercial break, and he felt like the post-production of the show was sloppy. Was that something you were frustrated with at different times, the production of the show?
I'm going to give my man, Kevin Sullivan, not the ad-free shows member, the Taskmaster, but Kevin Sullivan of post-production. That is something that, and it's not always easy, because you're juggling, whether it's 9 segments, 10 segments, 11 segments, whatever. You always want to be on the air in the crossover, so 5 minutes before the hour and 5 minutes after, and you try to stretch it even longer. Sometimes the way, especially in our TNA days, We didn't always wrestle through the break. We would end the match and go to a pre-tape or whatever it is. And so you did your best to push stuff forward or push stuff back. It could have been one of those weeks that it was a mathematical equation that was impossible to hit the crossover, or it could have been, this is something that, yes, Dave and Wade and others and all of us make mistakes, that was not quite accurate, or maybe, I don't know. So I'd have to go back and we would all have to go back and watch, but things like that happen. It's mathematically impossible to hit the crossover on some post-produced shows.
It's also reported in this era that Kevin Nash had renewed his contract, but he's going to continue to tell people for the next several weeks, whether it's the media or his friends, that wasn't true. Are you guys intentionally trying to keep it a secret? How was he to negotiate with? Do you sort of stay out of that and let someone else in the office handle it because you have the relationship? Or do you think, hey, I have the relationship, let me tackle this?
Well, yeah, by 2008, Dixie and Dallas were the final sign off on all of it. And I was happy to stay out of 95% of all that. But when I read that, I'm thinking, did Kevin come to us? And I'm saying me, Dixie, Dallas, whatever, and we got the deal done. But he's like, hey, let's not make this public knowledge, because we knew we were going with the main event, or began to know the main event mafia, which was going to be, you know, and I know we've done, Marcus will have to pull this up, but you know, we've done podcast on the main event mafia, but we all had a good feeling about that storyline. We were going to do the launch of the product. Man, this sounds dated, but we were going from SD standard def to high def, doing a big show out in Vegas. So we knew we had a lot of big things coming up and high hopes, and felt, at the end of the day, everyone really felt good. And when I say everyone, the most important folks are the 5 members of Main Event Mafia, me and Mick, which were basically trying to play the balancing act, and then the main crew of Storm and you know, Rude and AJ, of course, leading the charge, and Eric Young and Samoa Joe. Everybody felt good about the creative direction. That's a really good feeling for folks to have, that it's not perfect. We're not all sitting down eating out of the same lunchbox and buddy. I never think that's super productive, but I do think the competitive nature, we all felt like, okay, we're going to be standing on the same page, fighting for the next contract, which I think is healthy. And I think everybody had kind of dug in. And I think most importantly, we took the foundation of a real story. Like, this was really how AJ Styles felt, and really how Samoa Joe and others felt. And it's really how Jeff felt, and really how Mick has always been a supporter of young talent, and how do we get him up, and all that kind of mindset. And Kevin Nash has no problem, especially in his active days, looking a guy dead in the eye, out in the open, and saying, you want my spot? Well, then come take it. But I'm going to do everything I can, both in front of the camera and behind it, to make sure you can't. And when you kind of have that mindset, okay, it's a real deal. And Kurt believed every word that came out of his mouth. I'm the very best in-ring talent in the world. So you boys are not even in my league. You kind of look at Sting, the icon, and his level, and Booker and Scott Steiner. You kind of look at just
what
the
a
story.
Yeah.
The as Dutch would say, and they were excited about it. Hey guys, this story writes itself. That's a Dutch Mantel line. So yeah, we were fired up. We knew we had a good future in front of us.
Let's talk about something else that happens at these tapings. Right after No Surrender, all the TNA wrestlers were handed a packet detailing the latest drug policy that TNA was putting in place. What led to this? Is this clearly it's a mandate from Dallas, but do you know what it was born out of?
I hate to bring this up, but was there, I'm just trying to think, was there a death in the industry? Was there a situation of drug testing that happened at WWE that might have, and I'm not saying it. I just feel like there was stuff, and I think we've referenced Dixie in front of Congress or something. There was some type of, and I'm not saying an enormous catalyst, but a little something going on.
Oh, you know what? Okay, that may have been.
Was it?
It might have been the era where we got the shipping label information, where guys were having stuff ordered and we had the FedEx records and people had denied. Maybe that makes sense. But I'll tell you this: if you were to test you and I right now, man, we're going to come up hot for Blue Chew because we love how hard it makes our ding dongs. It's got the same active ingredient as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra. And I tell you what, Jeff has a hard on for more than just that skunk. He's got it for Miss Karen too. And it's better than ever thanks to Blue Chew. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is pretty simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of the licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package, but there won't be anything discreet about your package. And right now, you're probably thinking at this point in the show, you might be asking yourself, how in the world is Jeff convincing his wife to go take a shower with skunk-covered dogs? Well, have you ever seen her frown? She's grinning ear to ear, and it's all because of Blue Chew. Seriously, your wife can too. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at bluechew.com. Chew it and do it, and find out who's really got the stroke around here. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is MyWorld to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And Jeff, I want to encourage everybody at home. Why don't they just set a trap in their bedroom? Go ahead and take a Blue Chew and then maybe, leave like a trail of rose petals in there and see if you can't hashtag trap that thing. Blue Chew.
Conrad, your reads, they're just monumental, my man.
Well,
I mean, before we started this podcast, the skunk story didn't even exist. And here you are working Karen in the shower.
Yes.
Washing dogs from skunk spray.
Yeah.
Into the read. Hats off, Val.
Well, here's the thing. I figured out that you said it's happened 6 or 7 times. You're making sure it happens. And then, when the dogs come in, you get in the back and go and chew that Blue Chew up. By the time she gets the dogs cleaned and she comes and just collapses in the bed, she's too weak to fight you off. And we're going 2 out of 3 falls, by God. You're a 60-minute man, thanks to BlueChew.com.
With the wet t-shirt, right?
With the wet t-shirt. Why not? These jokes write themselves. Okay. So listen, there's a report about your beautiful bride, Karen, in the Observer of the Tour.
You can get to that, but back to that testing, because just to put a button in that, I remember having conversation with Dallas and not the only one, the office and all that. And I'm like, hey, because it was always WWE's publicly traded. We're private. So that's an enormous difference in, fiduciary responsibility. I think that's the right term. But I always kind of, my advice or my guidance or my thoughts were, if there's a problem, yes, it needs to kind of be addressed no matter what it is. And I think those were the packets that we basically said, hey, we are implementing our own wellness policy. And folks were tested, and obviously I can't give names, but there were fines given out. A lot of people think, no, there was a real policy that was administered and adhered to, and
by the way, it's very expensive.
I was going to say it was one of those things that I was always like, my God, are we getting an ROI on that? But
of course not. I mean, and listen, you and I can talk about this forever and ever, but
yes,
I've always taken the stance that this is not, and boy, I don't mean for this to sound the way it does, legitimate combat. Like, this is not a combat sport where I can punch you as hard as I want in the face, and if I take this, I can punch you harder. It's not. It's entertainment, man, and I'm not saying that it's not still dangerous, but this is on some level stuntman Hollywood work, and they don't drug test those cats. Now I understand we're trying to do it for their own good, but I am saying that all the levels and monitoring and blah blah, blah, all that matters in baseball and certainly in football and boxing and MMA. Yes. But this is entertainment. And what that guy wants to do, as long as he's not hurting anybody else, get out of his way. That's always been my attitude.
That was what I told Dallas. The old, you like to say Southern sayings, the old walking around sense. If it looks to be a problem, then let's address it.
Yes. Well said. By the way, I did a quick little Google search. That whole Signature Pharmacy thing we were talking about was the prior summer. So like August 07. But these policies, and I know some people would say, yeah, but this is a year later. You don't just create a drug policy over the weekend, guys. That's not the way this works. You have to find somebody who's going to administer it, somebody who's going to be responsible for it. You're looking for third parties, and then you're trying to find the most effective use of it. What are we testing for and why and what are the rules and the policy, and then how are we going to pay for it? I mean, all of that. We have to do some comparison shopping. Yes, this company can do it, but can we get somebody who can do it faster and cheaper? That's just the way you run a business, folks.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's some uncomfortable news we at least need to touch on, and we're going to tread lightly here because, there's no upside to it. But it's reported in the Torch that Karen and Kurt were filing for divorce, but he's suggesting that perhaps it's a publicity stunt because there has been a film crew for a reality show following them around. And we've touched on it a little bit, but as we know now, that was not for a reality show. That wound up being the end of a real life marriage, right?
Yeah. And I couldn't recall what that reality show was. It a Kurt one? Because Karen and others were involved in something in LA on a pilot for a reality show. But that in the notes that lost me, but that's neither here nor there.
I know that there's probably a big appetite for you and I to go long form on all of that. I just want to say respectfully, I'm not interested in that. Yeah. There are real people and real families and real children involved. So if you're looking for other people to talk about that, look somewhere else. You won't get much of that here on my world. The Steel Asylum is scheduled to return at Bound for Glory. It's going to be taking place at the Now Arena. I love that because, man, this is the home of the original All In, just outside of Chicago. And this is a big deal to have a big show like this, at least for TNA, a large arena. I mean, this was the building that sort of built AEW.
Are we already at the pay-per-view? Because I was trying to think.
No, we're still building towards it. I'm just saying that's where it was announced as being.
I got it. Oh, we announced. I got you. Sears Center.
Yes.
Huge for us.
Yeah.
Huge.
I mean, it was huge for Cody and the Bucks. And it was so huge it convinced Tony Khan to bankroll AEW. I mean, a pretty damn substantial and important building in wrestling history. Wade would write, Bound for Glory has been chosen by TNA to be their annual WrestleMania, their biggest showcase event of the year. The price is up from the usual $29.95 to now $34.95. The host city of Chicago is a major market and also signifies it's a level above the typical monthly show. But it's the lineup that actually counts. TNA does build towards this event for months, so the lineup is not happenstance, but rather the culmination of more planning than usual. And there's a cross-the-line video short that would air hyping the TNA Knockouts division. Various women here on your roster are going to take digs at the Divas division on WWE, saying things like they don't settle their grudges with pillow fights. That's for divas. And the timing of this is kind of curious because, well, we had arguably the best ladies wrestler in the world in this era. We had Gail Kim jumping ship from you guys to WWE. I don't know that the newsletters making that a Gail Kim thing is necessarily fair. You're just trying to show, as Eric would say, we're different than, right?
Yes. And because context is king big time in this scenario, because I had mixed emotions on, the old adage, okay, we're TNA, the challenger brand. Of course you punch up. You don't ever punch down. You got to punch up. But in this case, our knockouts division compared to the Divas, I believe any wrestling fan would have said during this time frame in 2008, oh yeah, the knockouts division is far superior. They actually wrestle and they do storylines, and it's not just bra and panties and pillows and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But we took a lot of pride in branding just what it was, the knockouts division, and that is one of 4 divisions in TNA: heavyweights, tags, and X division. And when we formed the knockouts, like I've said many times on here, we all wanted them to have distinct personalities and no cookie cutter in there. That was 2 ladies that were just the same. So branding and doing these spots was a little bit of a conflict for me, but that's what we were trying to do, brand our division completely different from the WWE. And we knew they were about to come on strong.
Well, we know that you guys have big plans for some of these big stars. It's coming out that you guys have created a TNA Legends title, which I actually used to own the Ringies version of that.
Did you?
Yeah, for a brief period of time. It said it was supposed to be launched at Bound for Glory. It winds up getting delayed. Was the original plan for Main Event Mafia to be launched at Bound for Glory and have Booker win the title on that show? Or do you recall why it was delayed?
So probably would have to look in if there are these notes. Yes, I know that. So we kind of have glossed over the going from standard def to HDef transition. That internally was a massive deal for TNA because everything had to be changed. We had to take our studios. We used a third-party consulting, and I think that guy rubbed some people the wrong way, and it was a process, but it was mandated by Spike, our partner. They helped pay for parts of that because,
oh wow,
yeah, it was a fantastic relationship. But they were in the process of flipping their switch, that all their original content, because I think there was a date that all original programming had to be X amount of days. Anyway, so going through that process. So once that was in process, I don't know, 6-9 months in prior, when that kind of rolled along, and Spike going, hey, we want to do this 10-pole event. We want to do it outside the Impact Zone. Let's do it in Vegas. Okay, we're going to do it at Hard Rock, all that. So then we think, okay, we really need to make sure that and I can take myself back to the creative rooms. Hey guys, I love Spike. I know this. They want to pop a number, but we got to create revenue for Bound for Glory. So let's give them some creative, sizzle, but we need steak. We need steak on Bound for Glory. So the introduction of the Legends title, that wasn't going to draw a penny on Bound for Glory. The formation of a faction might not draw, but it's all stuff that good creative content. But as far as the pay-per-view, we wanted to load that up and create as much revenue as possible. That makes sense, Connie?
It makes a lot of sense. And it also makes sense that you've had Sting win the world title at each of the last 2 Bound for Glories. He's your biggest star. It's your biggest show. You want to send the fans home happy. So you're probably not looking to repeat that formula. You know that Kurt Angle is going to be figured in big here. You actually send him to do a media tour over in England, and it's written that some of the things he says pissed you off. Quote, Angle said he continues to push for simplicity with TNA's booking. Quote, I've spoken to the bookers, writers, and owners of TNA and said, listen, wrestling is very simple. Keep it simple. He said regarding the steps of the King of the Mountain match, it's like, holy shit, it's too fucking confusing. He said TNA can triple ratings by next year if they simplify their approach. Quote, we call ourselves Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. We say TNA, we are wrestling. No, we're not. We're fucking gimmick matches. And then there are the run-ins. Now, this is not Wade Keller saying this. This is not Dave Meltzer or Brian Alvarez saying this. This is a contracted wrestler, one of your highest paid performers, being critical of the owners and management and bookers and writers and just the whole team And sometimes when we see stuff like this, it's because it's a storyline. And sometimes it's just a guy saying what he really feels. When you read about this or heard about this 15 years ago, what'd you think?
To say that the creative room was upset would be an understatement. Conrad, when that was discussed in the room, I was just like, he said, what? And there was tension in the room. And I immediately went to, now hold on, I'm the leader here. How do we kind of navigate our way through this? And I immediately went to, okay, who was babysitting him? There are, well, when I'm talking to my PR folks, and especially this goes back, there's a guy in WCW and others, and I'm like, hey, you don't have to worry about me. I understand leading the witness. And you know what I mean by that? I mean, there are reporters out there that, I mean, they literally set Kurt up and he just fed. But had I not heard these exact questions, comments, thoughts from people in the office, and knowing without question that Dixie had said, not all of those, but some of those. And I'll never forget, downstairs, Dutch said, hey, man, can we go outside? And I'm like, okay. We went outside and he said, you know what this is all about, don't you? And I go, yeah, but Kurt needs to be a little bit more diplomatic, because that was kind of the general consensus of the room. He ain't told anybody in this room. And Vince was, well, he's kind of complained. I'm trying to recall this as I sit here today. So there was a little bit of he said, she said, but for the most part, Kurt had never mentioned any of that to us in the room. But Dutch just said, hey, man, I don't think that's Kurt. I think that's Dixie feeding Kurt. And I think he felt comfortable enough for the green light to just fire off on it.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. When you said, you know what this is, I had no idea that's where you would land.
Yeah. And when look, again, hindsight's 2020, but me being the delusional optimist, putting my head in the sand, worrying about everything but nonsense. When I look back and kind of saw how the chips went down in 2009 into 2010, I go, okay, that might not have been Kurt so much, because boy, oh boy, did he let the floodgates go. I mean, it was just carving. Yeah, he carved his own product up, which I didn't think was good for him or me or the company.
Why would Dixie want that? She would have wanted you out and thought there could be enough criticism that people would push for that.
Bingo. When I look back on the whole timeline of things,
how stupid is that? Respectfully,
ego makes folks do some crazy things. I'm guilty of it on a number of occasions in my 37 years, but man, oh man, when you really drill it down,
I want to simple.
He had the motivation to do it, because Kurt, knowing who that creative room is, but I can't imagine him being in the middle of this position, because look, Dixie's my boss. She's the one really paying writing the bill, writing the paycheck. But then over here, I've got Vince and Dutch and Jeff and the creative team and the Main Event Mafia guys and all this. And ooh.
Well,
it was really stiff.
I'll tell you what, you just changed a lot of people's opinion about that, because I think a lot of people had a different perception in mind when this came out, and especially with the benefit of hindsight. But I always come back to
why.
Well, I just want to remind everybody, we're not just talking about wrestling, folks. This is the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And there's never going to be a scenario that I know of in any other business where someone who is financially incented to grow this thing, like as revenues grow for Impact and TNA, they do for Dixie Carter personally as well. Why would you go out there and have one of your top stars shit on the very vehicle that determines whether or not you're profitable or not and how much profit there is to chop up? It's almost as if we'd rather have 100% of a tiny pie as opposed to a decent sized chunk of a much larger pie. I just don't understand that. Like, it doesn't make any rational business sense whatsoever.
It happened by 2014. That's exactly what she got. And I look, all the water under the bridge. And I've admitted all my screw ups and mistakes, but when Dutch said that in my backyard, I immediately go, because I was really, really mad in my mind, Kurt's over there, maybe up at 5 a.m., blowing and going. And he has this reporter sit down and kind of go into, man, that King of the Mountain match, that isn't that ridiculous? And Kurt maybe say, well, it kind of, it does have a lot of rules. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing. Yeah, don't y'all have too many gimmick matches? Well, Kurt, y'all had 6 out of 9 or whatever, some kind of number. Well, that is a lot of, kind of being led by the witness. That's where my head was at, completely giving Kurt a hall pass. That damn reporter just chewed him up. But once I kind of went down and thought about, Dixie did say this at one time, and she did say that and didn't say that. And then I go in and have sidebars with everybody in the room and say, hey, have you ever heard this kind of stuff? They all go, yep. I go, well, boys, there you have it.
Let me just add some context too. I think it's important to, not everybody listening to this knows this, but in real life, when you just become friendly with other people inside the business and they let their guard down and they just start talking, it is everyone's first instinct. I don't know why this exists, and I think it only exists in wrestling. Everybody shits on everything. I don't know why that is, but everybody starts saying, can you believe? And so that doesn't exist in a professional setting. But when you get to that casual friendship version of things, that's how people communicate in this industry. They sort of poke holes and poke fun. Some of it's real, some of it's not, and we're all just trying to have a good laugh. But still, we understand when the camera's on and we're doing media, now it's time to sell our product. We can be critical behind closed doors and make fun on telephone, telegram, telewrestler. If the text messages between wrestlers or people in this industry were ever made public, people would have a totally different perception of the industry. But when they're on, when the red light's on, you just don't do this unless someone puts you up to it. That makes total sense.
And here's another thing. When I was just checking the way you said that, and this is only for me, kind of come certainly, over the last 5.5, 6 years, but through the years, Bruce, let's just use Bruce. If me and Bruce are having a conversation about the wrestling industry for 15 or 20 minutes, and you have somebody on the other side, let's just say a plexiglass wall, and they're listening to it, their interpretation could be, damn, they're critical of this and critical of that. But what me and Bruce are really talking about is putting the guy over. I think there's levels of interpretation of the industry that you have to have. And this probably isn't coming out right, but they're with time. And look, the older you get in this business, you can be jaded this and jaded that, but there comes a level of discussion of just maturity, maybe not the right word, but the longer you're around it, their interpretation, because I think guys that had been in the business not very long get in, and I'll say this, I think their conversation starters are, did you see this? Did you see that? And it starts off on negativity or anyway, maybe I'm saying it's the cadence of that conversation where I think if you've been around a little bit longer, you may start off on this, but you're like, it don't really even matter. what really matters is what you just said. That's what I'm trying to say. What really matters is what you do in business. How are you going to go create that ROI? Let's talk about what really matters. And that's creative and talent and marketing and timing and all the things that really matter about it, not none of the noise and chatter. I think a lot of the noise and chatter takes up so much bandwidth nowadays. God, that may sound like an old timer, but there's so much chatter that really, that stuff you're talking about, Conrad, like, well, we both know it really don't matter.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that Wade would write about. Tonight threw to a video package of a press conference regarding Matt Morgan's DNA being sent into space in digitized format. Jim Cornette, Don West, Tanae Morgan, and 2 reps from Operation Immortality DNA space program were present at the podium in front of a TNA backdrop. This actually happened, y'all.
Yes.
Operation Immortality officially recognized Morgan as the blueprint that demonstrates the absolute potential of human genetics. He also added that if something happened to destroy the human race on Earth, his DNA would survive in space. What are we doing, Jeff?
I really don't know the exact deal, but I do remember something about, and this is like, I shouldn't even call it character development, but I think either this helped go along with the blueprint moniker, or it went along with that, but I think it's a legit deal, right?
I mean, I don't know. Did they really freeze Walt Disney's head? Some of this is just crazy. Who knows? From the Torch, LAX left immediately after performing their in-ring segment at Tuesday's Impact tapings. The duo's upset over rumors that the creative team plans to break them up. Hernandez's contract is up in December, and he's made it known he plans to ask for double the pay the company is currently giving him. Meanwhile, Homicide's contract is up early next year. Homicide and Hernandez enjoy teaming together and consider themselves a package deal. Oddly enough, the duo have told friends that they've yet to talk to anyone in WWE because they don't want to deal with the politics. Given WWE's attempt to cater to the Hispanic demographic and a strong push into Mexico, one would think LAX would be an act they were interested in. It seems like LAX was unhappy a lot in this era. Is that Hernandez? Is it Homicide? Is it someone on the creative team rubbing them the wrong way? What was going on with these guys?
I don't say as simple as this, but our tagged, Team 3D, Rude and Storm. I mean, there was always, I don't say an odd team out, but there's only X amount of slots on a 2-hour show. And at this time we had the 4 divisions. And so when you have, let's just say 5 tag teams, 6 tag teams, there's always a tag team that's, on the fringe or not doing this or not doing that. Everybody wants TV time. So most of the time I think came from a healthy spot. But the nature of the beast, when guys had been with us a year or two and their deal came up for renewal and we're on 2 hours, everybody thought, okay, my pay is going to be double. And that was not a reality. It just, that did not cash flow for us. And it was tough. Those kind of conversations sucked, but they were a reality.
Here's another report from Wade. Dixie was backstage at the tapings on Wednesday night. She rarely attends the second night of tapings in Orlando, so the assumption is that she's there to finalize the Nash contract negotiations. At one point in the day, she was spotted having what was described as a very animated conversation with Jeff Jarrett outside the studio. They spoke for roughly an hour outside, away from other personnel, and then headed inside where they continued their conversation for another hour. I know there's probably almost no chance you remember this conversation, but was this about the Kurt Angle promo or something else?
It had to be. I mean, I don't remember an hour conversation. I mean, probably at every TV, we would at least talk outside for, let's say, a half hour. I mean, you talking about a laundry list of things to get done. I look kind of back on the TNA head count on office workers, tiny comparatively speaking to what we were doing. But yes, so I don't remember it specifically. My gut tells me, yes, we had a conversation about the Kurt deal.
at some point you guys at least decide, hey, we're going to make this into a storyline. We're going to lean into
that was
it.
in the room either that day when it came out or however it may be. I said, look, why are we, in a way, we can make this kind of feed into the Main Event Mafia storyline. Let's not just turn our head from it. I think that's, you know, you don't have to use it all, but you can use a shred of it.
We should also mention that Mick Foley is going to come out to make his in-ring debut here on Impact, and he's going to have a lot of conversation about Vince McMahon. And then Kurt Angle interrupts, and once again, they're talking about Vince McMahon. The debut of Mick does a 1.0 rating. It's down from even the week before, which was a 1.07. So if our hope of seeing Mick in a TNA ring is going to spike the ratings, it doesn't happen. But the larger story to me is, why are we spending time talking about Vince McMahon? I mean, in hindsight, do you regret that?
I'm sure. And my gut tells me Vince Russo, Mick, and Kurt got in a room, and, you know, and it's very easy to go down that road. You know, as we've said a gazillion times on here, hindsight's 2020. But now here we are 15 years later. It just, it ages even worse than probably when it really aired.
Let's ask about a video package before we get into the pay-per-view. Billy Corgan Smashing Pumpkins contributed music for Bound for Glory. And we know eventually, long before Billy owned the NWA and was doing his thing that he's still doing to this day, he had an independent outfit in Chicago, and somewhere along the way, got heavily involved with Impact. How did this relationship begin as far back as 2008, where you guys are using Smashing Pumpkins music to promote the pay-per-view?
I've got to think the original point connection was through our old bud, JB.
Oh, wow.
I unless I'm forgetting something or missing something, but I believe, you know, Billy came to live events from time to time. When I kind of look back, you know, one year we used Jericho, we used a Fozzy theme song. We used this year that we're talking about 2008, Smashing Pumpkins. So we tried to use, you know, different, unique music that had somewhat of a hip factor, if you will. But I think JB was our first point of contact.
Well, your first point of contact, if you're looking to eat good, should always be Factor. With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for some wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days, and Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered right to your door. You're going to save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. And here's what I like. You never, ever get a frozen meal. They're always fresh. They're never frozen. They're ready in just 2 minutes. All you got to do is heat and enjoy and get back to life. And it'll help you get out of that rut. They've got over 35 weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals to choose from, and they're all promoting a healthy lifestyle. Things like cranberry pecan chicken and apple Dijon pork chops. And they've even got, for a limited time only, comforting meals with these seasonal veggies like that. Also want to mention that you've got Gourmet Plus, where you can go ahead and be ready to eat fancy foods like broccolini and leeks and truffle butter and asparagus. These are real premium upscale ingredients, guys. And maybe you're thinking about lunch. Maybe you're not ready to have a microwave at the office, or that's just not possible for you. Well, they got really cool stuff like grain bowls and salad toppers. I do have a microwave at lunch, and man, it's awesome. You can pick between the dietitian-approved Calorie Smart meals. That means you're going to get 550 calories or less per serving. My man Jeff is always reaching for the Protein Plus. He's looking for meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. They can even hook you up for breakfast. How about some apple cinnamon pancakes or some bacon and egg breakfast skillets? They've even got all your snacks and juices and shakes and smoothies. I can't recommend it enough. I think you're going to love it. It's better for you, it's faster, and it's cheaper than takeout. It's ready in just 2 minutes. There's no prep. There's no mess. You're going to love it. Seriously. All I got to do is clean my fork. Everything else is done. Head to factormeals.com/myworld50 and use the code myworld50 and you'll get 50% off. That's code MyWorld50 at factormeals.com/MyWorld50 to get 50% off. So, Jeff, let's talk about the Go Home Impact. It does a 0.95 rating. So we were at a 1.1 and then a 1.07 and then a 1.0. And now right before the big show, it's a 0.95. You can actually watch this show. We encourage you to go watch it right now. You can sign up over at impactwrestling.com/packages. Be sure to use our promo code Jeff. That's impactwrestling.com/packages. Use the promo code Jeff, and you can watch Bound for Glory 2008.
Hell of a show.
The show does 35,000 buys. It's actually down 5,000 buys from the prior year. But remember, we're up an additional $5 a buy. So it's not a total loss. We're getting $5 more 35,000 times. And we do lose 5,000 buys. But the Observer would have this to say: after spending months peaking everything for Bound for Glory, including the debut of Mick Foley, the return of JArrett, plus a Sting heel turn that it appears only the people working in the company and the people who read about the company are aware has taken place, it has to be leading to a feeling of frustration. The idea of building a strangely put together adaptation of the 1980s program of the new leaders versus the now leaders has been really vague. Hopefully, it will become more structured and mean something, because it has resulted in some good promos. TNA seems stuck at a certain level. There's something about the TV format in Orlando that feels stale, and adding big names doesn't change that, only making them feel secondary when they step into the new world. When TNA was growing on pay-per-view and on television, they seemed to be that TNA was the unknown place for great wrestling, and that is no longer the case. So a lot to unpack here. Did you think the TV product in Orlando, I mean, certainly from a budgetary and a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. But did you think that started to feel stale by 2008?
The short answer is no. I did not think it, I think, look, and we would have corporate guests, wrestling fans from all over the world, and you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But just every TV taping, I would talk to, a number of whether, and some park guests, some hardcore wrestling fans, some corporate suits, whatever it may be, and they would always step in and go, "Damn, this studio is a lot smaller than it is on TV. On TV, this and that, so there was all kind of different comments, but I've always been of the mindset that just creative drives everything. Like it just got to look in the mirror and it drives everything. And look, we had several kind of through the years, but going into this pay-per-view, we felt, I can't say we checked all the boxes, but we had a strong card, not just on paper. We thought they were bought in to Joe and Sting and Jeff and Kurt and Mick Foley Special Enforcer. And we have an X Division kind of craziness with the Thunderdome. And we have a cool tag match and, a little bit of a celebrity flair to it. If you're a football fan, Hall of Famer, or should be Hall of Famer, but legendary Chicago Bears, Steve Mongo McMichael. We had a big feel card, and this is maybe for another time or maybe not. It's this podcast, but when you kind of get those numbers in, there was always that ebb and flow of, and I just think it's so easy for me to see in my eyes, and I'm sure I may have a little history revisionist, but when you look at Vince Russo in the room and Dutch Mantell in the room, Dutch would always lean to, we got to make these pay-per-views create revenue. Ratings are a fixed income, whatever. We got to make these. And Vince, innately and rightly so, would always lean much more heavily into the episodic, make the TV show. We got to get the ratings as high as they can. But because in Vince's mindset was, the higher the rating, the more the buys. I think as time has gone on, and look, again, this is '08, social media was big time in its infancy. It's a whole different ball game, I think, now today. But it was this simple, Conrad, a head scratcher in that. Are we really cannibalizing ourselves? Like the monthly pay-per-views, we are asking them to pay $30 a month. So how do we get them enticed? And WWE's doing the exact same thing. And yep, maybe they are not in a studio, and maybe they have Cena and 20 other stars and publicly traded and whatever else we want to say about it. But this was a disappointing buy rate. That's simple when we got the numbers in, because we just felt 06 Sting retirement versus Jeff's title. Kurt had just come on the scene a couple of weeks before that. I know that was a loaded up card too, but we just felt, now here we are 2 years later, this is a bigger card. This is in Chicago. The brand is two more years of awareness under our belt. We just felt, man, this is going to do more than we did. It's going to be up. Let me just that's the phrase. Is it going to be up? And when you would say that in the room, we're not talking about the month before. We're talking about the Bound for Glory before this. And it wasn't.
We've got one dark match here where Eric Young's going to be in a tag team affair against Christy Hemme and Lance Rock. We're trying to get some local mainstream press from the Chicago area. But then it's time for us to get going. We kick off the show with Jay Lethal winning the Steel Asylum match to become the top contender for the X title. It's a match that features Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Shark Boy, Jay Lethal, Petey Williams, Sanjay Dutt, Jimmy Rave, Curry Man, Super Eric, and Johnny Devine. It goes 12 minutes and 7 seconds. The Torch gives it 2 3/4 stars. The Observer gives it 3 1/4 stars. Meltzer would say the cage was patterned after the AAA cage, which means the sides are like a regular cage with a domed top and a hole in the ceiling. The rules are the first guy to climb out through the hole wins. Kind of weird because you're upside down when climbing the dome part to the opening. And this was a spot fest and the crowd loved it. What do you think of the Steel Asylum?
I loved it. It's different. You didn't see it on, if you're a longtime fan, the NWA didn't have this. They had War Games. You didn't see WWF, the blue steel cage. You didn't see WCW have it. All the different iterations. I loved it. And watching it, I always try to be very, very careful about, that's real. Well, it's authentic. You damn sure better be athletic to be able to climb out of that cage, or you weren't getting out. It was truly, there's a component of a big component of realism that you got to have strength. You got to have stamina. You got to have dexterity, and you got to be ready to go after you've taken 15 bumps. Those guys that this match, and I'm going to say this a couple of times, go out of your way, but this was a good one. The Steel Asylum, I think it's a unique concept. I think this is a concept that can be way overdone, but in this setting, it was a hell of a way to crank things going. You didn't like it?
No, I just asked myself, if Jeff Jarrett was presented with this gimmick match in the backstage area prior to the show, Jeff, here's what we're going to have you do. We're going to have you get in there with about a dozen other guys, and y'all are all going to climb upside down on this. I just wonder, would I see Danny DeVito come out, or would you have done this?
Oh, no.
This is Danny DeVito's situation for you, I think.
This is a brother Danny DeVito 101.
I mean, you've got the Fu Manchu. You could do it. I could see you hitting a Hogan. It doesn't work for me, brother. And so when you come out and you say, I love it, I get shades of Nabes, Michael Hayes, because I've heard Bruce say things like, okay, so Jeff, what we're going to do is we're going to have you climb up on top of the Titantron and you're going to jump off and do a double 360, 720, 450 Hurricane Rana. The idea being Michael would never, ever consider doing that, but no problem saying, this is great for you, Jeff, and here's why.
Well, that's what a great executive producer does.
I love you for that.
Names. I love
it. Next
great.
up, we've got Rhino and ODB and Rakakon, who thankfully you're no longer being sued by.
Okay, that's all solved.
She's dropped her lawsuit against George Steinbrenner and Home Depot and the Yankees.
Is Home Depot in the clear?
They're out too, man. You know, they're good. They're all good. That
is some really good news.
She's on the winning side against Kip James, Angelina Love, and Velvet Sky. Of course, we know them as the Beautiful People. The Torch gives it a star. It gets a half a star. Listen, we think a lot of Rhino. We think a lot of ODB. We know how over the Beautiful People were. Kip James man, he could fall in shit and come out smelling like roses. That's the story of his career. That dude's just over. I mean, he's going to have a sellout crowd at a funeral one day. That dude's a draw. Rocket Khan, sort of the odd man out, Meltzer would say, still easily the worst match on the show. Rhino is going to pin James after a gore. I mean, when you've got a mixed tag like this, that's tough. I mean, they use the word cluster a lot in wrestling, and usually that's for 3 persons or 4 persons or 5-person matches. This is a 6-man tag, but then you add the wrinkle of, oh, by the way, it's an intergender 6-man tag, a mixed tag, if you will. That's challenging, especially to follow the big spectacle like we just saw, right?
Well, if I remember correctly, we wanted to, you want to load up your biggest card of the year, and the Beautiful People with Kip James was a very cool, unique act, and we wanted them on there. And that's, because the babyface team is certainly scrambled eggs, but it worked. It was short. What was the time limit of this match? 6, 7 minutes, 5 minutes?
6 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah. Billing.
We've got Abdul Bashir pinning Consequences Creed. We know these guys as Sean Daivari and Xavier Woods these days. And Bashir gets his hand raised. He retains the X title in 9 minutes and 18 seconds. They get a star and 3/4 in the Observer, 2 1/4 stars in the Torch. Did you know what you had in Consequences Creed? I mean, we know he's going to go on to be a megastar with WWE as a part of New Day. Could you see that in him way back when?
The easiest way to say it is, how can you not like Consequences Creed? The smile is legitimately $1 million smile, and you got to watch him. Even in his early days, I watched 2 or 3 minutes of his, I don't even know if it was a VCR tape they set in or if he just showed up and I watched him. I'm going, okay, he's definitely got the wrestling part, and the more reps, got to get reps, but his charisma from day one goes, okay, he's going to make money in this business. He's got a very unique smile. That's the easiest way for me to say it.
Whatever it is, he has it.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Taylor Wilde winning a 3-way for the Knockouts title. She's going to retain it over Awesome Kong and Roxy. They only get 5 minutes and 11 seconds. The finish would see Kong take a bump out of the ring. Wilde would pin Roxy after a German suplex. Star and 1/4 in the Observer, star and 3/4 in the Torch. Do you think you would have had a big match here for Gail Kim had she been around?
Yeah. And look, the booking of that, even if I can't recall it, the better monetization would have been Wild versus Kong, but we weren't ready to put the belt on Kong at this point. And, you got to put a 3-way in there because you don't want to beat Kong, and having a 3-way, and God, you can just tell by the way we booked it. Having that short a match with Kong, we knew that we just wanted to move on to the next part of the story the following month.
Let's talk about the next match. It's Robert Roode and James Storm retaining the tag titles in a Monsters Ball match over Matt Morgan and Abyss, Team 3D, and LAX. So we've got 4 tag teams going 20 minutes and 20 seconds.
Awesome.
Steve Mongo McMichael is the special guest referee in Chicago. Huge nostalgia, crazy match. Meltzer would say weapons matches are usually passe, but not to this audience. They loved the match and pulled out every stop. The match was much better than one would have expected. Too many big spots to even recount, but among them were Bubba stapling Abyss in the forehead. He had a rookie card for Joe Burrow telling him how bad he sucked.
Yep.
Morgan did a plancha off the top rope to the floor on everyone. And then finally, Johnny Devine coming out. Team 3D put a ton of lighter fluid on a table near the entranceway. They set the table on fire and threw Abyss off the stage. People love the fire spot, but ever since it nearly ended Cibernetico's career last year, I can't see it being worth it, would write Dave Meltzer. They had people there with fire extinguishers to put it out, but Abyss was on fire longer than was good for him. And by the way, for the record, 0 seconds is what's good for me to be on fire. I don't want to be on fire for even 1 second. There was where Storm put on his football helmet with a beer and challenged McMichael. That got an easy pop as Rude played quarterback and Storm played center. McMichael got down in a football stance, blew past Storm and clothesline Rude. Wrestling fans remember him as this flop, but in Chicago, he'll always be the local football legend from the 1985 Super Bowl team. There's a bag of thumbtacks here. I mean, you pull out all the stops here. It's a crazy match. And in the end, Bubba's going for the pin after a 3D through the table. Storm runs in the ring, spits beer in Bubba's face, and steals the pin when he covers Hernandez. 3 1/4 stars on the Torch, 3.5 stars on the Observer. The use of the weapons, the use of Mongo. This is about as good as you could have hoped for, right?
Connie, there's guys that know, we always bash on Abyss, but he's good. But you take Abyss and my man Bubba and let them really sit down and hardwire a match like this and really think through the iterations and having legitimately all the pieces of the puzzle. So you got 8 guys, and look, we're not even calling Storm and Rude beer money yet, but I think this is the early days as we're getting going. But the match is really, really good. And, Mongo, if I recall correctly, he was the football coach of the Arena League. So he was an arena football team in the area. So he was obviously the Chicago legend, but still in the news, current stuff. But just having him a part of it, they tore the house down, man. And again, that building, it's unbelievable atmosphere for us that, we are in the studio, and to get out of the studio, the biggest show of the year, the electricity, that's what I'm trying to get to. These guys brought it to another level. A really, really, really good match.
Go out of your way to see it. It really is special. And as if that wasn't enough, check out this for a follow-up 3-way match. Booker T with a win over AJ Styles and Christian Cage. They go 13 minutes and 5 seconds. Booker's going to come off the top rope with an axe kick on Christian to get the pin. 3 1/4 stars on the Observer, 3 stars in the Torch. You look at that. I mean, the Hall of Famers up and down this card, but in this match alone, Booker T, AJ Styles, Christian Cage, how many titles are included there? It's unbelievable. And that's not it. Next up, it's Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. They go 20 minutes and 7 seconds. And how can we dress that up even more? Well, Mick Foley is the ringside enforcer. You're over like Rover here from the start. The crowd is chanting, "Thank you, Jeff." And you're in near tears going to the ring. They're showing a vignette with your 3 daughters. And Meltzer would say you couldn't ask for a better performance from Jarrett at age 41. And with 2 years out, Jarrett more than held up his end. And it was the usual level Angle pay-per-view match. Now, in this era, the Observer and the Torch, they were pretty consistent in thinking that Kurt Angle's like Mr. Pay-per-view. If you need a big-time performance at a big-time match on a big-time pay-per-view, you look no further than Kurt Angle. So you have your work cut out for you. Not only is it your first match back at 41 years old, after a 2-year layoff, with real personal tragedy in the rear view, now you're in there with the real legitimate wrestling machine, and people are chanting for you. Man, this had to be emotional coming to the ring here, because you've got all the stress and the pressure, but all the support and the love from the fans. And these same fans have just hated your guts for years and years, but now they're showing you this respect. this has to be a top moment in your career, is it not?
For sure, Conrad. And as long as I had been around, and I did not mentally, because I like to kind of walk through, I still do it, walk through from the time I walk through the curtain to the time I get to the back. Just really think through it all, like everything and crowd reactions and maybe A, B, and C, this and that. And I didn't enter into my brain kind of the emotional component of, yeah, okay, I'm a baby face, but the story's there. But kind of the overwhelmingness of it, that caught me off guard. But I definitely had my game face on. And Conrad, that's why, I am so grateful. Here I am, 56 years of age and packing my wrestling bag tomorrow. But at 41, God, 15 years ago, I had all the, my whole vision from the beginning, starting TNA, was wrestle when it's time to step out. And I'm going to be promoter and executive producer and businessman. And, exactly the footsteps that my dad did. I mean, he wrestled, his entire career was really actively. I mean, you can add on some one-offs with me or Fargo or whatever, but he really only full-time wrestled less than 10 years. It was a very short window. That was kind of in my mind because he always was, like my grandmother, you can wrestle, but don't become a wrestler, and stay business. And you're going to be needed much more outside the ring than inside, all the things that go with it. So even at this time, I didn't really think, okay, yep, I think the time's right, come back and wrestle. But to be wrestling Kurt, and I admired Kurt, obviously, before he came to TNA, and then to get him, and then I stepped out and he stepped in and carrying the weight. I just didn't expect myself to be in this position. And, Kurt is more than a man's man. When the bell rings, you better be ready. Cardio wise, everything. He's fast. His execution is like none other. I've always said him and Sean, they just have a unique ability. And Kurt, especially in finishing sequences and ups and downs and everything that went with it. But I was fired up. And I thought about this going through the notes. This is a little inside baseball, but I had a couple of buddies that flew up from Nashville that came up. And then another buddy, God rest his soul, Rob Baronis. I don't know if you remember that name. He was the kicker for the Titans. He decided to come up. And yeah, I guess now is as good a time as ever to tell this story. It's kind of only in wrestling. I'll say this. So Baronis and my buddies, and I think they were, I got them tickets where they were going to be sitting and all this. So I went out, had the match. I was elated with it, and I was very relieved when it was over. And I thanked Kurt immensely, because Kurt, he just takes everything to another level. I mean, it is what it is. He's not just good, he's great. So it's over. Mick gets the monstrous pop and Sacco and sequence and the timing. And Conrad, in this match, I did a dive over the top rope. Barely.
A Pescado, I believe it's called. Is that your first one of your career?
I believe so. Yeah. I'm like, hell, I'm doing it at 41. Yes.
Ask you this though. I know you're going to laugh, but you had to practice that. There's no way you were going to get embarrassed. You just did it. You just knew you could do it, or hoped you could do it.
Hoped I could do it. I barely made it because I had hops back in the day. At 41, you can't jump as high. But anyway, I did it. Finish the match. Do all that. Come back. Oh my God, it's over, Conrad, right?
Yep.
And in this building, there's 4 or 5 big dressing rooms, but there's a hallway of smaller dressing rooms. I was in one, Kurt's in one, Booker's in one, way down at the end of the hall, different ones. So match is over, done with. What do you think I have in my room? Some Rocky Mountain spring water.
Yep. I heard about that.
Yep, have one to anyway. So gonna go watch, and we're here. So I'm gonna let you pick back up in a second, but Sting and Joe are gonna tear the house down. And I hear, let's just say I heard Booker in a very sharp tone, I'm gonna kill this. And I'm just like, oh boy, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Rob would love it that I'm telling this story.
Oh,
Rob Baronis had come back into the dressing room. My buddies were there, and two of my buddies said, "Hey, I'm going to watch this last match to the curtain," or whatever it was. Baronis, who might have had a couple of cocktails early in the evening,
he enjoyed a beverage or two,
had gone into Booker's dressing room, taken off his shoes, and was putting Booker's boots on.
That's not a good idea.
No, it's not a good idea. I wanted to kill him. Booker was going to kill him. Rob. And anyway, so I'll never forget that story, because you go from, wow, man, Bound for Glory, and now Sting and Joe, and this show is rocking and rolling, and everybody's on a high. And I'm back here trying to make sure one of my best buds doesn't get killed. Thank God Booker kind of took a deep breath, and I said, it'll never happen again. I cannot apologize enough. It ain't you, dude. It ain't you. I'm like, yes, but he's my friend, and I'm the reason he's back here, and that should have never happened. And I didn't. I don't know how he got down there, but he slipped out of my dressing room and did that. So that's my Rob Barona. I got a bunch of Rob Barona stories, but that's my bud.
I have one too, but not one I can tell in the air. So I'll tell you off air. But needless to say, my man liked to party and have a good time.
Oh, did he?
That's gonna be
yeah.
for the big asylum match, or the big monsters ball match, as just a real spectacular. I'm gonna recommend you watch this one too. Just the entrance, your entrance, and all that, knowing the backstory, very emotional and one heck of a match. And Mike today's very careful not to say Mr. Sacco, but we get some really hard chair shots, including one to Foley's head, and then we get some more chair shots and some socks. And oh my, you win. You beat Kurt Angle, your first match back in over 2 years, 20 minutes and 7 seconds. And then it's time for the main event. Sting and Samoa Joe. They go 16 minutes and 54 seconds. And for the third consecutive year, Sting wins the world title at Bound for Glory. Strong effort from both men, according to the Observer. I thought this was Joe's best match since the Angle match. And I recommend it. Go watch it. It is a crazy, crazy moment. There's a moment in the match here where they're brawling up the stairs, and Joe flies out of a luxury box and flies towards Sting with a missile dropkick, who's on the steps. Meltzer would say there's no safe way to do that move, and I have no idea what possessed Joe to do it, because he had to land with his back on the steps. Even with a flat concrete surface, that would have been a bad bump, but on steps, it's insane. He could have broken his back. It's one of the craziest visuals, and we'll see it pop up from time to time.
Yes.
Twitter memes and things. But did you know he was going to do that before you saw him do that?
Hell no. And to this day, I'd love to ask Joe, why the hell did you do that? I mean, there's no easy way. I mean, it's one of those clips that you can say, oh, that wrestling stuff, that don't really hurt. Oh, hold on a minute. Let me show you this.
They also have Sting use a muscle buster, but of course, that's Joe's finish. But Joe pops right back up like a Road Warrior pile driver spot from the 80s. Joe is then going to use Sting's Scorpion Death Drop, and Sting pops right back up. Sting hits a couple of Stinger splashes. Joe catches him on the third one, slams him down hard, and here comes Kevin Nash. Sting grabs the bat. Nash takes the bat away from him, and Nash hits Joe with a bat. Meltzer would say it's a weak shot. Sting uses the Scorpion Death Drop for the pin and the title win. We finally get to pay off the Kevin Nash Samoa Joe story. They have an unbelievable spectacle of a match. Again, you got to go out of your way to see that bump that Samoa Joe takes. The Observer gives it 3 3/4 stars. The Torch gave it 3 1/4 stars. But once again, Sting is leaving with the world championship. Joe was in, I guess this is his WrestleMania moment, if you will. And what a story with Kevin Nash being involved and turning on his friend Joe. It's crazy to think, too, that Sting and Samoa Joe still tearing it up 15 years later, this time in AEW. How would you categorize Samoa Joe's run as champion here? Did you feel like it was necessary to put the title on Sting, or are we just going there because of the main event mafia? Talk to me.
I thought, and look, a lot of times it's not like you can sit down and map out a year or 2 years, but I thought Joe not did just good, but great. But when you kind of look at how the chips fell to set up the main event mafia, because in 06, Sting, monster babyface, he sends JArrett, who is the tyrannical heel. Yay, he won. Following year, Sting wins in a babyface. This year, he wins, but it's the setup to set up the main event mafia. But the finality of mentor mentee being Nash and Joe, it was okay, the payoff. And now basically the battle lines are drawn, that it's the main event mafia against the front line and Jeff and Mick, because look, it goes without saying, I beat Kurt, but not just an assist, a very strong assist from a sock and a chair shot and a get. We quote unquote, we protected Kurt big time in me going over, but it just got everything in alignment, and the people, they were invested in the storyline. And I think this Bound for Glory, there's so many different, I could pull up a Lawler Dundee finishes in the past that, like, oh my gosh, that was the wrong finish. You kind of the heel, but it kind of set up. Even this past year, we all thought, including me, okay, Cody is winning the belt. Nope, he didn't. Roman's still champ, and now it's set up. But anyway, it was quote unquote a heel finish, but it paid dividends for the next 6 months. 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, because the main event mafia ran from here to the following September till all the BS went down.
Here's the final word on the show from Meltzer. Bound for Glory itself was a good show. 2 matches that had to deliver, and both did. The crowd at the Sears Center in Chicago was awesome when it came to reactions, making even the bad matches easy to take. The crowd wasn't mic'd well, but they were so loud that they overcame their production weakness. This felt like an ROH style crowd, heavily male, 20 to 35, with the same type of chants, but about 6 times as many people. They fell just shy of the company attendance mark of 5,000 fans in an arena set up for about 8,000. At least based on our response, there's no indication this pay-per-view did much better than usual numbers, and nothing like Lockdown. Listen, when you go out there, I know that I'm asking you to take your wrestler hat off because I know that this was fresh for you. But when from a business side, a backstage side, we got 5,000 fans here in Chicago. This has to feel like a high watermark for the company. I know the pay-per-view buys are not going to be a new record, and technically this isn't the attendance record. But in Chicago, a big show like this, you delivered, right?
Big time. And, I always went into, when you reference that type of mindset, and I had it on every show, whether I was wrestling or not, but you go back and you go, okay, Mr. Carter he will enjoy hearing this news that we grossed X amount of dollars on this night, because Bob's a businessman and he's an old man, which is speculative at times. But when you hit something, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And, especially in the early years, I tried to describe things, and my dad would also do that, a promoter can really survive 364 days. It's the 365th day is when you kind of hit the big lick. That's what WrestleMania was for Vince. I don't know what his P&L looked like before he went into one. Yeah, he was making money, but the lore goes, he gambled it all. And that's the nature of the beast. And that a wildcatter like Mr. Carter liked that kind of stuff. But look, we didn't hit a all gusher, but these were the kind of days that, okay, Bob, by this time, obviously 2 hours, but the revenue was coming in. If we can put a couple of these under our belt, 4, 6, 8 a year, okay, then you're going to be headed you are headed in the right direction. You're going to be headed in the right direction even more.
I can't wait for us to talk about what's next. We're going to talk a little bit more about 2008 and TNA in the coming weeks. But next week, we're going back only about 5 years. We're going to talk about the NWA 70th anniversary show. It happened at the fairgrounds. It set a record. One of the last times that we would have big time professional wrestling at the fairgrounds. We're going to talk about your interaction with Billy Corgan, how that deal came to be, and how you were involved. Tony Schiavone and Jim Cornette were on commentary. And oh yeah, we had Cody Rhodes and Nick Aldis, the rematch from All In, which just so happened to be at that same Sears Center we just talked about. You get all these shows early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. They start at just $9 a month. That's less than 20 cents per episode each month. But that's not all. We've got a ton of new bonus content, including a brand new series we just launched this past weekend, Lex Expressed. You get to be on camera and ask Lex Luger questions. We talked about so much this past week. I want you to go out of your way to see it. We're covering our social media clips up with it. I think you're going to be impressed. You'll also like the book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbag with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, the Hacksaw Hour with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Tuesdays with the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, and so much more. There's something for everybody at adfreeshows.com. I also want to mention that we'd love to have your business. If you'd like to market your product or service to men 25 to 54 years old, well, there's no better place than right here. Find out how affordable it can be at advertisewithjarrett.com. Love to have your interactions too. If you've got questions for me or Jeff about the NWA 70th episode, we want to hear from you. It's at MyWorldPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I should also mention we're still looking for your bet suggestions. We're going to make the bet next week here. It's hashtag Double J Bet. If Alabama wins, what does Jeff have to do? And if Tennessee wins, what do I very reluctantly have to do? And we want to know, what should we name this skunk that has ruined the Jarrett household's name?
Oh, God.
Oh, we're going to capture it. We're going to put it in a Burrow jersey. We're going to deliver it to Chris Park's front door. We're going to have Dave Silva up there and film it. It'll be bonus content for adfreeshows.com. But what should we name that rascal? Be sure to tweet us and use the hashtag Trap That Thing, and then we'll know exactly what we're dealing with. By the way, we're going to have a video diary of all of this. So I guess we'll call it not Davy Crockett. We'll come up. Jeffrey Crockett will make his debut on the My World YouTube channel. That's myworldonyoutube.com. We got tons of great merch, including a brand new Trap That Thing t-shirt available at gimmicks.com. Jeff, good luck tonight, man. It's Title Tuesday. Tickets are still on sale at AEWTIX.com on the outskirts of Kansas City. Here you go. I hope that somebody leaves home or goes back home with a guitar necklace. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking for that, and I'm hoping that I can log on to my phone tonight and go into my security app and have Burrow, if that's his working title's name, in a cage. I'm telling you, I don't know what I want more.
Oh, let me say this.
That thing or a guitar shot. No.
If you want to be fair about it, you got to cut a hole in the top of that cage. And if he has the strength to climb out the top,
Conrad, stop.
Talk about it next week, right here on My World.
Peace.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson from SaveWithConrad.com. Heads up, homeowners, all of a sudden your house is worth more than ever these last few years. But what are we going to do with that newfound equity? No, I'm not suggesting you sell your house and go buy something else. But didn't we all make this decision when we bought a house where we said, hey, someday we'd like to, and one day it would be nice if, maybe it's the dream kitchen, maybe it's an in-ground pool, maybe it's a man cave. But you've got this newfound equity, and I think we should use some of that equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. But even better than that, we're routinely helping folks do this, and they wind up with a cheaper monthly payment. So if you got the dream house you always wanted with no money out of pocket and your payments went down, how easy is that? Find out how easy it is to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket right now at savewithconrad.com. We can't wait to hear about your projects. Tell us what your dream is. We're going to help you make it happen at savewithconrad.com.
NMLS number 65084, Equal Housing Lender. Woo!